On to Sunday, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Tampa Bay Bucs. This one sitting right now. Oddly, there's one outlier at DraftKings as Bucs minus 9.5, but 8.5. At most other books, there's a 9 at Bet Rivers. So I guess anywhere from 8.5 to 9.5 in this one. A total of 45.5 or 46. So what do we know about this one? It may be super wet. That being said, we don't know for sure that it's going to be super wet. There are varying weather reports out there saying that the rain might stop before this one kicks off. There are some others saying that who knows, as the model gets closer to time, that this thing could get crazy. And also, by the way, it's South Florida and the weather is crazy there regardless. So it might, nobody might know anything about all this. I think the one thing that we do know, there is at least going to be some winds in this thing, sustained kind of 15-ish to 20-ish miles an hour. There could be those gusts that come up into that 25 to 30 mile an hour type range. The wind would be worse if the rain was still there. That's how weather works in general. But we don't really know. We do know that there will be at least some sort of weather in this one. So Brett, for me, I mean, listen, we talk about this. Rain, not so much worried about. Wind, definitely worried about. A monsoon mixed with wind, I would be worried about both of the conditions as well. And so I'm not saying that this game is unbettable right now for me. I am saying that there is a lot for me to learn before I would feel super comfortable in a bet in this thing.
A monsoon mixed with wind, mixed with Jalen Hurts sounds sounds interesting. I don't have a lot here. The number is stuck between 7 and 10 in that dead zone. So I don't see it reaching a key number either way. Even at 9.5 at DraftKings, it's not going to get to 10. So it's just a weird game because the Bucs are a large favorite despite missing several key weapons on offense. You'd think you'd need those guys in order to cover a big number against a playoff team, but for Philly, this doesn't set up well for them at all. They got a backdoor cover against Tampa earlier in the year, but that game was dominated by the Bucs. Hurts was awful. Not surprising because that tends to happen when he's stuck playing from behind and forced to throw the football. And that's the likely game script here. So I keep going back and forth on this game, and I'm not going to force a play because there are some spots I like better on the board this week. If I had to, it would probably be on the Eagles just because there is that chance that they have success early in the game on the ground in poor weather with the wind and the rain, and that can kind of dictate the style they want to play without needing to rely on Jalen Hurts' arm for most of this game. But this is just a weird one that I'm probably going to stay away from.
Brad, when we take a look at this one, I mean, so you do look at that first meeting between these two teams, and it was dink and dunk city, right? I mean, that was what we saw from Brady in that one, and maybe what we're going to see from Brady in this one as well. So not only because of the weather conditions, but because of the way that the Eagles play defense, right? They don't blitz either. They were the 31st in the league in blitz rate. So they never come after the quarterback. And so since they never come after the quarterback, you're going to, and by the way, Brady had the best protection of any quarterback in the league as it was anyway. So now you got a team that never blitzes. You got a guy that doesn't feel pressure as it is anyway, because the offensive line keeps him standing in there. And so if they're just going to get to sit there and sit back and not blitz and not whatever, I can see Brady just going, oh, okay, Gronk, Cameron Brate, Lenny out of the backfield, these long, disgusting, kind of boring drives. And is that enough to cover an 8.5? I don't really know, but I see them having, an incredible amount of success. Again, that first game, because of the way the Eagles just play defense, Brady throws the ball 42 times. He completes 34 of them. He's 34 of 42, but he only goes for 297 because, again, it was a whole bunch of little short passes down the field. OJ Howard had 6 catches in the game, if that says anything. So I think it's probably a lot of the same.
Yeah, I think I agree that matchup is bad for the Eagles. That's the way they play defense all year. It's 2 or 3 deep in that zone and, make them execute, but Brady will execute. So I bet Gronk over 5.5 receptions. He's been getting like double-digit targets the last 3 weeks here. Obviously, him and Evans are probably the favourites now with Godwin and AB out of the picture. And Evans might have a tough matchup on the outside with Darius Slay. You would expect probably some shadow coverage there. And I think he had 2 receptions on 4 targets when they matched up in that game. So I do think Gronk is going to get fed, probably playoff Lenny, lots of catches out the backfield. I would say that the weather here, if it is 20 to 30 mile an hour winds as currently forecasted, that's got to favour the Eagles. I expect a much better effort out of the Eagles than we saw in that first matchup, because they came into that game, we talked a lot about it on the podcast, they're throwing at 70% of the time, like just complete madness for the team they had. And then obviously they realised, we should be running the ball because we've got an elite offensive line and Jalen Hurts. And, they've gone on this run, been the run heaviest team ever since. And I think they should have some success. Obviously, there's the big debate here is what is the Tampa Bay run defense? Because in the second half of the year, they're below average in success rate, below average in EPA allowed. They're the 22nd in EPA allowed to rushing quarterbacks since week 9. So I feel like the Eagles should be able to move the ball a little bit on the ground here. So yeah, I would probably lean towards taking the 8.5. But it's definitely not a huge edge. Again, it's a rookie, quarterback in his first playoff start against the greatest of all time. So, do you want to put your money on that? But Gronk is the way to play, I think.
Yeah, so from weeks 8 to 18, Philadelphia has run the ball on 58.6% of their plays, which again, in 2021 NFL, that's just unheard of. So weeks 8 to 18 run the ball on 58.6% of their plays. Of course, that's the most in the NFL. And since that time as well, like you mentioned, so Tampa has this reputation, Brett, of being this team that you just can't run the ball on. You have to pass. You can't run it all. Since week 9, they're actually 16th in the NFL in rush defense and EPA per play. So it's not like they're terrible at all, but it is they're middle of the pack, right? And so if you see a team like Philadelphia who does do something well, and that would be running the ball against a team that does something kind of middle of the pack, you would still favor Philly to at least have some sort of success on the ground at all. Like I think that they'll be able to move the ball on the ground. The problem is when you rely so heavily on the run, you basically have to be perfect, right? Because if you're only getting the 4 yards at a time, 4 or 5 yards at a time, you eventually will fail unless you're perfect. And then you punt it back to Brady. And like we said, Brady dinks and dunks his way down the whole field in this zone, and they probably don't punt the whole game. And next thing you know, you look up and then you are losing by double digits. So it's pretty interesting as to how this game is the dynamic of it, and if the weather does really and truly force Tampa out of a game plan or really shifts the favor towards Philadelphia because of their game plan.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of the Tampa Bay run defense, because my eyes tell me they're a top 3 run stopping unit. The numbers of late tell a different story, but that could be by design. Maybe that's how it could just be style and situational, where Tampa's fine with allowing teams to run the football. So
because they've gotten thinner in the secondary, and so it would make sense, right, to invite more runs if you don't have guys that can cover back there.
Exactly. So I think I'm leaning more towards this unit is still elite, and Philly is going to struggle running the football the way they want to, and that's why this is it's a tough one for me to cap, because there are some questions that I think are still unanswered.
Yeah, I am with Brad. I'm also with everybody else. Like, listen, whenever it pops, it's not on the board right now. Leonard Fournette receptions, Gronk receptions, Cameron Brate receptions, like stuff like any of that type stuff. Any of these guys that get close to the line of scrimmage, high percentage passes is the way to go for me in this one. I'll probably, the majority of the money for me, if not all of the money in this game, will be on props as opposed to a side or a total.
Do you bet Evans? You bet Evans unders too? Then I mean, we've seen him get frustrated when he is shadowed by these elite corners. So Brad's angle there with the Slay shadow coverage, I think leans more toward to Evans under. And yeah, if you're gonna do that, then yeah, bet the overs on a Gronk or a Fournette.
Yeah, I think that is definitely the way to go in this one.